Welcome back. Now we'll start with our Notice and Note Signpost Lesson 2. In this lesson, you will learn what our first signpost is. You'll be able to explain it. It's called Contrasts and Contradictions. You'll identify contrasts and contradictions in your reading. And you'll memorize the anchor question that goes along with this signpost. Be sure to have the notes section of your 3-ring binder, your pencil, and colored pencils or crayons handy. Here we go. Let's begin by thinking about one of the ways an author shows us how a character in a story is changing and developing. We will call this contrasts and contradictions. To begin with, let's think about the Harry Potter series of books. You may have read this series of books or even seen one of the movies. Think about the character Hermione. She is a kid in wizarding school who always does her homework. She always studies, and she always wants the teacher to know that she has the answer. So what would you think if one day Hermione came to class and didn't have her homework done? Pause the video while you think about and write down your thoughts on your notes paper. If you wrote that it would be strange for Hermione to not have her homework done, you'd be right. Not doing her homework is just not part of Hermione's personality. That behavior change contradicts what we'd expect her to do. When authors show us something that doesn't fit with what we expect, or when they present us with a contrast and contradiction, then we have to pause and ask ourselves the anchor question. Why would the character act this way? Let's write our definition down in our notes. When you are done, your anchor chart should look similar to mine. To the right of the signpost that you draw, write this. When you are reading and a character says or does something that's opposite or contradicts what he or she has been saying or doing all along, you should stop and ask yourself, why is the character doing that? Pause the video to complete this section of your notes. Now that we know our first Notice and Note signpost, and we know that it's contrasts and contradictions, we're going to be on the lookout for it as we read. When we notice that there is a contrast or a contradiction with how a character has been acting, or how I expect the character to act, we're going to stop and ask ourselves the anchor question, why is the character doing that? As we answer this question, we're going to learn more about the character. We'll learn about his or her internal conflict. Sometimes you'll learn about the theme, which is the important life lesson the author is trying to share. And it can also help us make predictions and make inferences about the plot. Pause the video to write this section of your notes. Let's review what you've learned so far. The first signpost is contrasts and contradictions. A contrast and contradiction is when a character does or says something opposite of what he or she usually does or says, or opposite of what we would expect them to do. When we find a contrast or contradiction, we must stop and ask, why is the character doing that? And the answer to this question can help teach us about the character's internal conflict, theme, help us make a prediction, or an inference about the plot. The next thing we will do is practice looking for contrasts and contradictions in some short video clips. After that, we'll move back to our book in class and look for the contrasts and contradictions in our reading. For now, I'd like for you to click on the slide that looks like this, and then click on each independent button, and it will take you to each video. See you soon.